Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan from Boredom Sated. This is the Boredom Sated crew. We are continuing our opinion on overpowered spells for 5th edition. This time, we're going to be talking about 3rd level spell slots. Here's where we're going to get to some real fun ones. Some real iconic spells are probably going to be mentioned here. Now, before we get started, there are some spells that are kind of must takes. Like, you probably need to have someone taking Remove Curse. But is Remove Curse an overpowered spell? I don't think so. So we've got some things that you can consider overpowered, or you can consider must-takes as overpowered because you have to take them. That's something that you can kind of decide on your own. And I'm going to start us off with one that is definitely right on that. Is it overpowered, or is it just a must-take? And I'm going to start us off with Tongues. In 5th edition, nobody learns languages. You get like your language. If you're a non-common speaker, you get your language, you get common, and then you might get like 2 more. That's it. For most characters, you are topping out at 3 languages plus common. And a lot of GMs are like, no, you can't have Draconic. No, you can't speak demon or devil languages. You can't speak like celestial, like all that kind of stuff. You can't speak any of the stuff that you would need to be able to speak because everyone else speaks common. So you've got to have something to fix that problem, and that problem is fixed by Tongues. Everyone can understand you. You can have diplomacy in the party. Some parties don't even like to do the diplomacy thing. I personally love diplomacy and love the idea of being able to end an encounter before it begins. So Tongues is definitely up there.
So my first one that I picked is Beacon of Hope. So people totally forget about this and usually don't even see it as useful, but it's really useful, especially if you're about to prep to go into combat. It makes the difference between winning and losing, especially against the boss, in a big way. So first of all, the spell bestows hope and vitality for up to a minute. Choose any number of creatures, not which is really good. So your whole party gets this within a range. For the duration, each target has advantage on wisdom saves, which is important against bosses, especially death saving throws, especially if you're taking on a big boss, and regains the maximum number of hit points possible from any healing. So every time your cleric casts heal, there's no rolling, just add the max.
Whenever anyone casts heal.
Right.
So if someone else casts a heal spell, they still get maxed out. And that's so good when you've got like a bard in the party or something.
Yes. So against boss fights, I consider it a must-have.
My 3rd level spell that is overpowered, first one, is Melf's minute Meteors. You basically cast a spell, and it surrounds you with 6 meteors around your space, and you can shoot basically 2 of them at your opponent with a bonus action. They do 2d6 fire damage on a non-save, and half if they do save on a dexterity. So basically, you just got some ammo circling you while you can just, ping them. And while you're moving and hiding and doing whatever to get out of the way of any type of attacks.
My first spell in the 3rd level that's a must and that's kind of overpowered, I consider Bestow Curse. The Bestow Curse is a touch attack spell, and they have to make a saving throw versus wisdom. Okay. But after that, the fun begins. Because there's a number of effects that target this person after that that they can't get rid of very easily unless they, depending on what level spell slot you use. At the base, you choose one ability score, and that person has disadvantage on all ability checks and saving throws. So this is like a setup. You can set them up for something else. Second, so long as the target is cursed, they take an extra 1d8 necrotic damage. Then, they also have disadvantage on all attack rolls against you. So once you curse them, you can get away without getting pummeled by them so easily. And finally, when they're cursed, they can still make a saving throw at the end of its turn. However, if they fail, they can do nothing. You've practically nerfed them. So if they waste that action, and that's it, they can do nothing. So it's one of those things that you can basically say, all right, if I get close enough, I might be in danger, but once I've done it, boom. Whoever I'm targeting is going to have a really, really bad day.
So that's our first round. Most of us are probably revving up to more powerful spells. So my second spell is another one that a lot of people probably wouldn't necessarily pick, but I love this spell, and I've seen it used so many times to get you out of terrible situations. And that spell is Thunderstep. Thunderstep is an action, range of 90 feet. Duration is instantaneous. You teleport yourself to an unoccupied space you can see within range, so it's got to be within 90 feet. Immediately after you disappear, a thunderous boom sounds, and each creature within 10 feet of the space you left must make a Constitution save or take 3d10 thunder damage on a failed save, or half on a successful one. The thunder can be heard up to 300 feet away. Now, here's where it's my favorite part. You can bring along objects as long as their weight doesn't exceed what you can carry. You can also teleport one willing creature of your size or smaller with the gear, who is carrying gear up to its carrying capacity. The creature must be within 5 feet of you when they cast a spell, and they must be in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of your destination for them to appear. That's why it's so good. I have, on many occasions, run right into the middle of combat, had an ability go off, had someone else go in first, do something powerful that they knew they needed to get the hell out right afterwards, go up and Thunderstep, deal 3d10 thunder to everything around us, and we just GTFO'd. It's an action, which is the only reason why it's only good and not super duper overpowered, but it is such a useful spell to have, because it gets you and a party member into safety or back into group so that you can make sure that you're not put into a bad situation. If you do happen to be surrounded or if you happen to be cornered, again, it can save not only you but another party member. And the number of times that this has come up at any level. And I forgot to mention, as you cast it at higher level, if you choose to, it does do an additional d10 of damage per level after you cast it at. The damage isn't that high, but it is a con save, and there's a lot of things that are bad at con saves, and it is thunder damage, and there's not as many things that are resistant to thunder damage as, say, fire, electricity, or poison.
So my second one is Bestow Curse, just like Mike says. One of the effects I do like and the usefulness is the continuous wisdom save to or do nothing. But the real value, I think of it, is in what it says in the regular text. Is you can choose an alternative curse effect, but it should not be any more powerful than those described above. So some of the alternative curses I would recommend is if a person is wearing heavy armor and you're near a lake, you can curse them that if they either make a wisdom saving throw or they go for a swim.
And my second spell in third level is the Big Kahuna, the Nuke of Nukes, Fireball, doing 86 damage. To a 20-foot radius. Now, if you're an evocation wizard, you can actually shape it and drop it right in the middle of your entire party and have it not hit your party. Doing 86 fire damage with a save doing half. That's at third level. That's crisping it. They become bacon basically, all your enemies. So it is overpowered for what it does. But it's the standard, so it's like everybody has to have it. But it is strong when you look at it next to all the other damage spells of third level and such. So there's only a few spells that do damage at really high levels, And this is definitely one of those bread and butter.
Well, my second one is the bane of all casters. It's Counterspell. Ultimately, this is the one where you literally throw the wrench in the machine of most of the time the big bad if they're spellcasters. They're gonna monologue and then they cast their mighty spell and you say Counterspell. It's like the reverse Uno card. Or if you play Magic the Gathering, they have Counterspell. So, in multiple flavors if you play blue, but yeah, this is one of the most. If you're a spellcaster, this is the most infuriating spell ever. that you know that the other guy probably has waiting for you to cast something to interrupt you. But yeah, that's my pick.
So my number one, big bad, and also Counterspell. It's so good.
It's so annoying. Yeah.
Casting time, one reaction. You're not casting it on your turn. I have an entire build based on the idea that I'm using my reactions for Counterspell or for shield if I need to make it so that I just don't take damage. Because I just want to, I had an entire game where we ended up going into a player versus player game, and I fought against a druid. I was playing as the wizard. And he was trying to cast spells every round, and I was just like, look, I only have to cast one offensive spell this entire time, and I will kill you, and you can cast as much as you want. I'm just going to counter it every round. So after 2 rounds, he just gave up because he couldn't do anything. He tried, and he just couldn't do anything. You can counter any spell of your level or lower. You can even counterspell higher level spells because the DC, if you're casting against higher level spells, is equal to 10 plus the spell's level. So if you have a 20 in your stat, you only have to roll a 9 to beat that number if you're casting a 3rd level and trying to counter a 4th level spell. It's really not that hard to counter. And if you know what the spell level of the thing you're being cast at is, you could just cast it at a higher level and automatically just say, no, you don't get to do that. Now, of course, if you overuse this, remember, your GM will be pissed at you and do this back. So another thing to remember about this spell is that you have to be within 60 feet. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. And I have had GMs specifically make sure that the distance was 100 during the monologue so that we couldn't counterspell. But when you have to have a GM or anyone else specifically build encounters around a single spell,
that's when
you know that it's overpowered and it has to be taken. It's so good.
So my next overpowered spells is Haste. Now, Haste, choose a willing creature that you can see within a range until the spell ends, which is for about a minute. The target's speed is doubled. It gains +2 bonus to AC, which is in 5th edition really, really good. Increase to AC is a desired effect. It has advantage on Dex saving throw, which is lets you avoid most damaging spells and breath weapons. Gives you a benefit with that. You gain an additional action on your turn, although the action has to be used to attack, dash, disengage, hide, or use an object action. Oh darn! I'm limited in what. The negative aspect is when the spell ends, you're lethargic for 1 turn, and then you go back to normal the next. It's a huge advantage. You cast it on your frontline fighter and let him go at it.
Or your frontline fighter gets magic and casts it on himself.
Oh.
My third spell is also Counterspell. You can really screw up the dungeon master's big bad boss if he's not, making sure that he's accounting for this spell. Boss encounters is definitely where you want to use something like this to really muck up the the fight so that you get the advantage on him and take him out. But if the dungeon master has it all set, then you better have it anyway, because if you don't have it, he'd probably kill you within a few rounds.
All right, my final spell for 3rd level, Overpowered, is Slow. The opposite of Haste in this regard. The reason I picked Slow is simply this. First of all, it can affect 6 targets, so that's always nice. It has 120-foot range. If you fail your Wisdom save, these are the following effects. Your speed is halved. You have -2 on AC and Dex. This is a really nice one. You can only take a reaction or an action, not both. And when you if you do take an action, as a lot of characters can take 2 or 3 attacks per action, you can only attack once with ranged or melee. No matter how many actions, no matter how many attacks you generally get per action. And finally, the cherry on the top of this crud cake, every time you cast a spell that has a casting time of at least 1 action, you have to roll a d20. On a 1 through 10, you're okay. You can cast normally. On 11 plus, you have to wait until the end of your next turn to cast for the spell to actually go off, and thus you can be interrupted. So you got a saving throw at the end of every turn, but it's one of those oh god moments. It really does mess up, and the fact if it was just 1 target, it would be pretty good, but I'd be on borderline with it. I'd say all right, not bad, but after 6 targets, it's impressive.
And that's our lists. I think our lists are very well built out here. Obviously, Counterspell was on several lists. We also had Bestow Curse on several lists. We always have different play styles and think a little bit differently, which is the reason why we have different lists on here. But there's nothing on our lists here that isn't really just a nasty, nasty spell. Even going as simple as the most common and most thought of spell when you're thinking of Dungeons and Dragons, Fireball. It's Fireball. It's 8d6 for a level 3 spell. It's really good, and it doesn't get worse later.
I'm surprised all 3 of us picked one Fireball. I'll tell you guys those 2. Fireball. What are we discussing?
It's so. All of the spells we picked here, the only one that I can reasonably say might not be considered overpowered is the one I picked, which is Tongues. And the reason why I still pick Tongues is because there's so many times, because of the way 5th edition is built, that you can't speak the language of whoever you're talking to. And it's a necessary take. And the thing is that some GMs won't even think of it as a necessary take. They're just thinking, yeah, you can't talk to the enemy. But then when you start talking to the enemy, if they're reasonable people, it's crap, they might actually get out of this. And that's the reason why it's overpowered, because it makes everyone have to think. So, if you liked our lists, let us know. If you didn't like our list, if you think there's something specific we left out, feel free to let us know. Either way, like or dislike the video, subscribe to our video, turn on notifications, all that fun jazz. And at least from me, I'll see you guys next time. If anyone else has anything to say, go right ahead.
Have a good one.